everyone. Welcome to the Lilly Theatre Company Artist Interview Special Edition. We have our CEO, Lilly Darr, and we're going to be talking about this unfortunate month of September, which is Suicide Prevention Month. And we're going to talk about the artists that have been affected and lost their lives due to suicide and drug overdose and alcohol overdose, especially these two bands. This one died of drug overdose. Nirvana's Kurt Cobain died of suicide, unfortunately. So, Lilly, what's your input about this?
Yes, I want to start by saying thank you, listeners, for joining us. And we're delighted to be able to bring this kind of content to you. As you know, we are an organization that's built around healing and helping our community feel like we have a safe space to create. And whenever we produce events similar to this, we are striving to build a community here. And that's the goal. Suicide awareness, suicide prevention, remembering those who have lost their lives due to this issue is very important to discuss. It's not meant to be hush hush. And as you were told that a couple of the artists that we are wearing T-shirts of have died through the vehicle of, if you will, of suicide. It's very unfortunate to know that there's great, amazing talent out there, and in a moment's notice, they have died, in the recent past, and so it's very heartbreaking. But at least we are remembering them and their talent.
Yes. So, as we mentioned about Kurt Cobain, he's in the band called Nirvana, one of the greatest bands of all time. Pretty much invented grunge.
Yeah.
So the thing with Kurt Cobain, I've researched a lot about him. They started out as local bands, and he always wanted to be local. He didn't want to be international. He didn't want to be known by everyone around the world. So he came out at the right time of well, in his case, the wrong time, but in the late 80s, they didn't want to listen to all of the 80s music anymore. It
was time for a change.
It was time for a change. Mm-hmm. It was just a lot of kind of repeating, people were just getting sick of all of the 80s style. They wanted a different style. So Nirvana came out with an album called Nevermind. Yeah. Was debuted in 1991. You grew up in that time. It was around 1992, 1993 that it just that changed the world. Grunge. Grunge was that kind of music that I don't think any genre it just changed the world just like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just completely, that was it.
I'm a testament to the experience of listening to grunge. I'll start with a precursor that I grew up in a church setting where you weren't allowed to dance, you weren't allowed to do anything related to enjoying secular music, so to speak. So at the time, I was in high school, and my youngest brother, who we'll be talking about in a little while, Roman, I remember this song called Teen Spirit.
Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Smells Like Teen Spirit came out, and I just remember hearing it, and we were at a dance at our school. And so by then, my brother was a first year in high school. I was a senior. So it had to have been around 1993. So I just remember letting go and just enjoying myself and just feeling free. It almost felt like Kurt was just articulating a sense of I get you through the music. I get you, and this is the vibe, and he created this vibe. And both my brother and I said, we weren't dancing in this dance, mind you, but when that song came out, We just threw off everything that we knew about our and just danced, and we were free. And mind you, yes, it was around that time when I started dressing like the grunge style and taking on this sort of this way of being that meant something to me. It's like I don't need to be like everybody else. I can be my own person. So grunge kind of like allowed me to kind of explore who I who I was at the time. So yes, I do remember the era was quite lit. It was pretty lit. So by the time I got to college, everyone I knew was into Nirvana. I listened to every album. I sang every song. I knew it song to song. I knew like everything. I understood completely. I felt like he understood me 100%. So I just, and here I am, me, you know. So who knows how many other people he affected through his life. He has no idea how many people he affected with his music and his style and his originality, and that's so needed. And so that's why we want to remember him, because he changed he changed, what did he change? He changed a generation. He changed the world through the sound of music. And so here we are, marveling at, you know, his story. And yes, it's unfortunate. Now, from what I hear, he died of gunshot, right? A
So
gunshot
yeah, so before that,
to
when
himself.
um, with the talking about Smells Like Teen Spirit, he just got so popular and he didn't want to play it because it just kind of affected him. And I don't know why it's doing that. Um,
Yes, sometimes we do have technical difficulties, so stand by
yeah, I just can't focus with that.
once he fixes.
Um, there's no echo anymore.
Testing.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So going back, with Kurt Cobain, when Smell Like Teen Spirit came out, he hated the song so much that he didn't want to play it live because it just affected the world. And once again, like I said earlier, he wanted to be this local guy. He didn't want to be international.
But I want to jump in to say that if you have watched the video to Smells Like Teen Spirit, in it you have a high school setting where it's like everything is completely different from what like for me at the time was like, oh, it's everyone in the video wasn't behaving like a typically, would see in a high school setting. And I remember just that sense of like separateness. Like you got the jocks, you got, this type of group, or that the cheerleaders and the band and all these groups that weren't necessarily, and if you weren't popular, you weren't in the know. But it felt like through the articulation of the story, the way it plays out in the video, it's almost like it's who gives a crap about this or that. Be yourself, be who you are. You know, that's the spirit. So if he didn't intend for us to want to receive that, that's on him, unfortunately. But what I got out of it is like he was saying you need to be yourself in order to be your most authentic person in society. If you're not able to do that, then what are you? So yeah.
Yeah, he just took it differently, and like as a lot of artists do, like as soon as they get money, they don't spend it right. They spend it on drugs and alcohol instead of like other luxurious stuff, and they just keep on like dozing and dozing, and they just
Hmm.
that was it. And with Kurt Cobain, like he struggled with a lot of drugs. Like probably if he didn't like die of suicide, he probably would have had
Yeah.
a drug overdose. As many artists like
Alice in Chains. Oh my
Alice in
goodness.
Chains, Lane Staley,
Oh my gosh.
drug
Another
overdose.
great one that
Um,
passed.
Sublime singer, drug overdose.
Yeah. What's his?
Blind Melon.
Yes, Blind
Um,
Melon. Oh my gosh. The
Def
list goes
Leppard, Stephen
on.
Clark. Um, Kiss, just
It just keeps going on.
all these rock and roll bands. Like there's like
And then we have Amy Winehouse.
Amy Winehouse.
Oh my goodness.
No,
Whitney
so
Houston.
we were talking about this. So someone told me like when Amy Winehouse was popular, there was people literally standing around her house 24/7. So like just imagine that, like when we could if you're popular.
I know. I don't think I could
and
handle
like,
that.
You can't even go outside because there's people just like, hey, let me get your autograph. Like just crazy people just out around your house all the time.
No, I couldn't handle it.
So
I
I
want to stay inside. I'd want to stay inside
Yeah,
or
well-
find a back door to get out of.
Well, it's just artists have to deal with that, and it turns to depression because you can't go outside without getting known, and like you're just sitting down doing nothing, and all you got to do to have fun is drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. You know, the thing that really put like, I mean, there are many moments in time that I can remember that resonate with me based on artists who've passed, people within my own family. You know, for me though, the Alice in Chains, the main singer, what's his name again?
Lane Staley.
Lane Staley, wanted to, you know, he was doing a great thing. His sound was so to me unique, and no, I don't think a lot of people could sing like him. Maybe the guy that's currently singing for Alice in Chains is the one that captures it, but it's like it felt like he was one of a kind. But you know, the point I'm making is I saw a documentary on him, just somebody doing a small little low budget documentary, but it showed the story, and you know, it's like he wanted to do the drugs. It wasn't about us as a society listening to such great and beautiful music. It was about something else. It's like when something takes over, in my opinion, I'm not going to say that that's what everybody else agrees with, but when something takes over your mind, it's like you pour into it. So for him, it was the drugs. I don't know if he did a lot of alcohol, but I just remember the documentary talking about the drugs, and I believe he did drugs with Cobain after one of their major concerts, I believe. So it was something like this was an error. You know, I think when you're a rock and roll singer, when you are a hip hop artist, when you are whatever type of artist you are kind of caught in a web where you could either decide to do the drugs and alcohol, or you could decide to let them not be a part of your life. And you know, for those of us who try to stay away from those things to an extreme, you know, it's appreciated when you're an artist because you're taking care of yourself, you're healthy, and that's kind of like the whole point. It's like to take care of yourself. Yes, we're recognizing their deaths and we're recognizing them as artists, but it's also, you know, about taking care of yourself. Your health and your wellness are so needed as an artist. Yeah, you can have fun and do your thing. I'm not gonna lie, you know, I still enjoy life. However, you know, I think the thing is to find a balance. One of the things we talked about last week when we were putting this together was the fact that, you know, people can make choices on how, you know, if you don't have counseling or someone in your life, it's important to find someone, find an entity that can support you. I know I'll be talking about my brother in a little bit, but I just wanted to share, bring it back to William to see if like you wanted to share anything about anything else.
So, well, going to, I watched a video. There was a band called Pantera. They're from New Orleans. Phil Anselmo, who's a singer, he was out of college and he was just talking to college kids about his struggle with heroin, and he almost died of heroin overdose, and he actually got revived, and he told us a story that like every day, like he woke up, had needles and just heroin, and he just kept on doing it just all day and all night. Just
See, that's what I mean.
Just lay in bed.
Something took over.
And just do nothing but heroin.
Yeah.
Every single day. he had that routine and
Mm.
just that addiction. Like he had a routine to where he just uses heroin, just don't even go outside. He just stays in his bed all day and all night doing
Wow.
drugs.
That that is
And
incredible to know. It's heartbreaking
it
because he
is.
turned to the something that could kill him. It's not like he turned to, like, I don't know, reading. Reading can't kill you. You can read 24/7 and it would never kill you. That's the one thing that won't kill you. I don't care, except if you don't sleep, that could kill you. So you got to balance that. However, the idea behind him doing the drugs in his bed all day is testimony to, like, once something takes over, it's a done deal.
Hmm.
Which brings me to the topic of my brother. My brother Roman. Um, he was born 1977, and he died 2008 in July. And I remember I was in the military at that time, and I remember having a premonition that my brother was going to die, because I remember seeing him look like he had actually been hobo for many years. He grew his hair out super long, which only was a couple of years, but it was super long. But it was matted, and it was a mess. He didn't, and I need to precursor that by saying my brother became a Muslim. So his whole persona was like clean cut suits, looking your best, wearing his garb. I don't know the lingo for the Muslim attire, but
Hmm.
he would wear certain attire. Um, and he was very, very calm and collect. And everyone where he lived were very friendly with him. He knew everyone. He could have been anyone if he wanted to, but unfortunately, because of his own trauma, it took the best of him. So he had a hard time. He didn't know how to seek help and support of his community. Even though a bunch of people knew him, he wasn't able to say, I'm struggling. You know who he told it to? His wife. And you know what? I appreciate Mary. That's her name, Mary Rodriguez. He talked to her, and I think she's the one that helped him find the support he needed by going to get counseling. But at that point, he was already so deep into his depression. Um, Unfortunately, they diagnosed him, and they gave him medicine. It put him on medicine, but he had already tried drugs, and he had a heart issue, so he chose to keep trying these drugs. And I don't even know the names of the drugs that he tried. Unfortunately, I didn't really pay attention to those details, but because it was to me, it was trauma knowing that my own brother's dead because he did these drugs. um, but he tried these drugs, and he had a heart attack.
Hmm.
And my dad came and knocked on the door, and saw him. You know, he to describe it will bring tears to my eyes. What my dad had to witness, but it was almost like, I guess we talked about these other artists where something took over when they did these drugs. Something took over my own brother. It felt like, and it wasn't like he didn't want help. Something just took over. I don't know what you want to name it. You call it whatever you want. But he died January 14, 2008, and no one forgets him that knows me and my family. Like, we won't ever forget him, and we're here to remember. Though he didn't, say, I'm gonna, do this to myself and leave a note. No, he didn't do that. But in certain ways, he did take his own life. Not that he wanted to, but it was just through his choices. His wife tried to help him, and my brother Robert tried to help him, but he was already far gone, just like some of these other artists. So it's imperative that if you suffer from depression, you have difficulties dealing with social stuff, you find it's important that you find a community of people you could talk to about this, so you don't suffer alone. And when you do find that person or people, that entity, organization, like at Berkeley where we go, we have the wellness with health and wellness center. My goodness, I've utilized that all last year. I
Hmm.
needed it badly. This year I've been slow because of getting into classes, but for all our Berkeley listeners and anyone, in school right now, whether you're undergraduate or graduate, It's important to utilize and access any kind of support that the school offers, because sometimes you don't have your family. You can't just turn to family to talk about XYZ relationship, because it's not that easy to talk about XYZ relationship. And so sometimes an organization, or yeah, an organization within your college campus might be there to support you. And we've lost a couple of Berkeley students in the last couple of years that, I don't know their names anymore, but we are acknowledging that they've died, because of the stresses that students face, leaving home, starting taking classes that are really hard, and then being by yourself and struggling as an artist. Anything can happen. Somebody could say the wrong thing to you. You could feel isolated. So many things can go on in someone's head. If you don't have that outlet, it could spiral something. And so I've struggled with suicide ideation. I'm going to put it out there, in my own past, and I recognize, as a veteran, as a woman, as um, a dog mom, um, that I need to find a community. And there was a time in my life, prior to being in the military and after the military, there was a time in my life in which I didn't feel that I could talk to anyone. Matter of fact, I had to find a spiritual outlet to be able to deal with what I had to deal with. So for me, even though it was a struggle year after year until I got through this healing, and this is how the birth of Lilly Theatre Company came about. It's through the hard work that it takes to fight whatever can try to trigger you down the rabbit hole. um, I kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and I wanted something more than that whatever was trying to take hold of me, which was my pain. And we all have it, no matter who you are, no matter how rich or how poor. We all have pain that we have to deal with. And so the trick is to kind of find your way through it. And so Lilly Theatre Company exists because I wanted to find my way through it. And I wanted to provide a space for people to find hope in this challenging world. Thank you, William, for having me here.
That's wonderful things you were saying, and I can't imagine losing a brother. It is,
Yeah.
it's super sad, which I almost did. We were talking about this a few months ago.
Oh, yes, yes.
So going to suicide, my brother almost hanged himself a few months ago,
Mm.
and I kind of had to go home to support him. And he went to some kind of camp. It looked just like a prison. You had to leave your stuff in the car. They scan you to get in
Oh, I know what that's
and
like.
stuff, and you had to sit down with my bro. So it was just so sad. Like I remember holding him as a baby. I was 6 years old, and like just getting a call from my mom while I'm up here saying like my brother almost killed himself. I was just almost devastated. Like I didn't know what to do with
Yes.
myself because I love him so much, and I'm so glad he's still alive, and um, he's still very passionate and loved to be here and stuff. And he actually, like, my family was going through a very hard time a few months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just glad my brother like realized like how much he means to this world.
Yes,
And
that's key.
I feel like everybody needs to know like how much their loved ones love them,
And they're valued.
and like if you kill yourself, like it's going to change everything.
Yeah.
Like everybody, it's not going to turn out great. It's just going to be even worse, and it's just it was a lot that I dealt with and everything. And also my older cousin, I never got to really meet her because she died of suicide. She
Oh, she did. Yeah.
So yeah, I remember I saw pictures of her holding me when I was a little baby. She held me, and my grandmother took care of her. She went through a very hard life. She was babysitting children that kind of like they R word raped her, and just she just went through a very hard time, and she hung herself.
Wow.
and my grandmother had to live through that for the rest of her life, because that was like her first love before I came around. So yeah, it's Robin Williams,
Oh yes, one of my favorite
Chris
actors.
Cornell, Chester Bennington. I think like my theory with Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington. So Chris Cornell, I was devastated when he
I was
passed
devastated
away
about Robin Williams.
back in 2017. Chris Cornell, he once again hung himself,
And
and
that chef
then
too.
a few months later, Chester Bennington hung himself, because Chester Bennington struggled with depression, and I kind of feel like when Chris Cornell died, Chester loved Chris Cornell, and I feel like it was no use for him being here when Chris Cornell was not here.
Can you give him a little context of who he is a little bit?
So Chester Bennington, he's the singer of Linkin Park. He's the one that does the screams. They have two singers. They have the rapper and they have the guy who screams.
The vocalist, yeah.
Which is Chester Bennington. And Chris Cornell, he's from Soundgarden, is another one of the biggest grunge bands at that time.
Yes. Oh, I used to love them. I still do.
And yeah.
And the chef. Okay, the name will come to me, but you probably know his name. The very popular chef, Anthony. Anthony Bourdain, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
If I've mispronounced his name, please forgive us. But he's someone that I never would have expected this to happen to. And there's also a fashion designer. She recently passed a few years ago, probably sometime after Robin Williams and Anthony Bourdain. I think it's Bourdain. I want to say, oh, I can't remember all of her background, but yeah, there's so many people. The list would go on and on. Like if we sat here, we could just probably think of a million other people. So knowing that we don't have much time left in the show, this episode, but just acknowledging them and our loved ones, people within our community. Oh, speaking of someone in our community, one of my favorite places to go shopping, right where the Clown Star is on Massachusetts Avenue in Harvard, no, in Central Square, is a little shop. Tatiana owns it, and she hired a young man to work there. And a few months back, I went and bought this. I think I bought a ring. There was a ring. I bought a ring and a couple of other items from him. He was working there. I didn't think much of it, but I noticed that he seemed like he was not, I didn't understand what he was experiencing, so because I'm not in someone's head, but I do remember something off. I didn't understand it then. Mind you, the next time I went in to buy that instrument that makes that shaking noise, the shaker thing, I went to buy that, and Tatiana tells me her employee just killed himself. So I was devastated. It was like, oh my gosh, right here in this little community, this has happened. How many other people have died, by the hands of suicide? Too many people. But we are here for you. We're here to support you as an organization. Come and see us. Go to our website. Let you do that because I'm.
So yes, well, thank you for watching us. Thank you for listening in to our interview about the unfortunate Suicide Awareness Month, which is September, which is this month, and people who died of drugs and alcohol. And I would just say, like with suicide, like there's a lot of people that love you, so always like just try to think like what you're going to do, what are you going to affect all the people that love you when you're not here anymore. It'll be devastating. And then like with drugs and alcohol, just like another thing, like if you die, like you're never going to be here anymore, and people are going to, it's very, very devastating. So just try to balance it out with doing it, or just don't do it at all. Try quitting. It's just really a bad thing to do. So yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you, Lilly Darr, for talking about this. Well, us talking about it. And thank you for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Go to Lilly Theatre Company. Check out our website. We're a healing program. We have faculty here that teach students their instruments, and we do produce plays that talks about kind of like what we were talking about, drugs and prison inmates. And so if you want to check that out, go to www.lillytheatrecompany.org, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.